Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Listen In with KNN. Thank you all for hanging with me. It's been a long day. For those of you that saw earlier, special thanks to Donovan McNabb for joining me on the show. Of course, the former retired NFL quarterback. What a great show that was. We did some Eagles love. Now I'm going to show Chargers fans some love as I welcome in former American football defensive end Burt Grossman to the show. We have lots to talk about. Of course, today is the NFL schedule release day. So for those of you that haven't seen all the leaks, it might be a fun conversation. You can tune in to the show on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And of course, we come on each and every Thursday and Saturday, Thursdays at 6 p.m. and Saturdays at 2 p.m. So without further ado, please help me welcome none other than Burt Grossman to the show.
Hello.
Burt, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
I'm fantastic. What's good with you?
What's good with you? Where are you?
I am in Lake Havasu, Arizona right now. It's about 110 degrees.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I had Donovan McNabb earlier. He was bragging about how warm it is in Arizona. And then here you come.
Yeah, it's a little too warm here.
I've got to go out to the West Coast.
Yeah, you know how we say it's a dry heat, so it's okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited to have you. I had you join on a very busy day. As we know, today is NFL Federal Release Day. I'm sure this was a happy time.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, well, yeah, if you're that into it, but I don't know if I'm that into it. But I do a couple first week games look pretty good. You know, you have Brady and Breeze and you have Deshaun Watson and Mahomes. Those will be the two games everybody will be watching, I imagine.
Yes. Oh my gosh. You talked about I think that was the first thing we thought about when Tom Brady said he was going to become a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Did you think that game's going to live up to the hype?
It makes Tampa Bay relevant again since it's been so long. It's been 20 years of it.
I'm telling you, I know the fans down there are so excited for that. I'm just saying with that. So you alluded to it earlier, but for players, is it not as exciting as it is for fans?
Not at all, to be honest with you. You know, for me, I guess when it would come out, you always had players that you idolized and you'd want to play against them. Yeah. My favorite players were Elway. So we were in conference. We played them twice every year, so it was no big deal. But always liked if we got to play Miami because Marino was there and he went to Pitt and he was kind of my idol growing up. So, I mean, in those aspects it is. And there's also ones, you know, if you would see Craig Ironhead Hayward or Christian Okoye, you didn't so much want to play against them because they were 290-pound tailbacks. So from a player's perspective, it's more who you have to go against than the excitement of the actual game.
Right, that makes perfect sense. I went to college, went to university, and you're from Philadelphia, correct?
Yes.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but today is the anniversary of Allen Iverson's infamous practice. We're talking about practice.
Yeah. Yeah, they're interesting. Philadelphia's interesting. An interesting place. It seems like every sport they have an attitude on every, you know, whether it's the Flyers, not anymore, but the Eagles. I mean, those fans are notorious. I mean, Philadelphia just has that vibe. Rocky Balboa, you know. Yeah. We're the only city that puts a fictional statue of Rocky up and not Dr. J. So
very true.
It's a different town in that way.
So let's talk about your background. Tell me what led you to go play football at university.
I had taken, originally they weren't one of my 5 visits. I went to Ohio State, Georgia, West Virginia. Where else did I go? I forget. I originally committed to West Virginia. Well, originally to Florida, but they went on probation at the time, so they had sanctions. So I decommitted. Then West Virginia, and then I visited West Virginia. And knew I wasn't going there.
Nothing else there.
Yeah, there's nothing. It was horrible. But I think because I grew up in a city, a lot of the campuses, Penn State, people say, why didn't you go there? But I mean, I just didn't want to go to a country school. I was used to living in the city and I wanted to go to a city. So my real only options were, at the time, I thought were Pitt and Temple. And Temple was not a place I wanted to go.
Right.
Just because they weren't good, even though they beat us in 2 years at Pitt that I was there. That was part of the reason. But it was interesting. Bruce Arians was actually the coach at Temple at the time who was recruiting me. But, it just came down to the city. I visited Pitt late because I canceled another visit to Ohio State. And I just went there and just loved the city. And at that time, they were still really good. They were perennial top 5 team every year.
Yeah.
It never happened after that, but that was pretty much the reason. Yeah. And they haven't recovered since. I don't know what happened.
They need you back. They need you back.
They need you back. They need you back.
No, they weren't good when I was there either.
Talking about how did the coaching and the game style of play, how did that help prepare you for the next level in the NFL?
It's interesting. We didn't have the internet back then, so you really couldn't pick, it wasn't covered virtually what defense they run. And I actually went there and was not a good fit and probably would have never even started ever again, just because they ran a 50 and I was a small defensive end that was more of an outside linebacker.
Yeah.
Fortunately for me, not for him, Foch Fazio got fired my freshman year, and they brought in a new coach, Mike Gottfried, and a little-known defense coordinator, John Fox, came in, and he put the Bears defense in, and it allowed me to move outside and play a lot on air, and that was really the big difference for me. Other than that, I probably would have never even started down at Pitt.
Wow. It's about the things that you've done. And now I want to go to your NFL days. Of course, a couple weeks ago, we had the NFL draft. I've got to get your thoughts on the virtual draft and what you thought about the players.
I had the year I was drafted was, the year they call the greatest NFL draft ever, first round. So we didn't know it at the time, but that's, Barry Sanders, Troy Aikman, Deion Sanders, Derek Thomas, Andre Rison. I mean, it goes on and on, but it was cool. It was different. I didn't go to New York, even though I was in Philadelphia. I decided to stay home, and I was drunk. I remember the night before and had a hangover. And that morning I kept getting woke up by calls. We didn't have cell phones, but Mike Dickett called me that morning and said they were going to try to trade and take me, which that trade fell through. So I kind of knew I was either going to go to San Diego at 8 or the Bears at 10. The Steelers just didn't really draft Pitt guys in the first round, and they took Tim Worley the pick before me, but never much talk about going to the Steelers. But it was cool. I didn't, the weird thing, I didn't get a call or anything. I saw on TV that the Chargers picked me, and then I got called 10 minutes later by the Chargers. I should have known then. How screwed up that organization is. But it was cool other than that. I mean, I wish we made the money they make now, but other than that, it was great at the time.
Don't we all? And of course, we have to talk about this question for you. Henry D, who maybe to connect us to. I promise my best with this question. I want to ask you, how many Super Bowls have won under Drew Brees or Eli Manning as their starting quarterback for the past 15 years instead of Philip Rivers?
To be honest, I don't think any. I think, Drew Brees got in the perfect. I think Jameis Winston's going to kill it in New Orleans. I think it's just the coaching. It's, Sean Payton. It's indoors with a bubble. No, you don't have to worry about wind, cold, rain, anything. I just, Philip Rivers to me is better than all three of them, to be honest with you. But he was just unfortunate that he had, 26 different offense coordinators and 5 or 6 really bad head coaches. And they would always fire people and hire the wrong person. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he went to the Super Bowl this year with Indianapolis.
Yeah. Oh,
so to answer the question, I don't know if any quarterback can win the Super Bowl with the Chargers under that ownership.
Right. So you think that there's going to be a change in ownership before they ever get to hoist that Super Bowl trophy anytime soon?
I think it's where, everything has to be perfect and line up perfect for you to, be that quarterback. Look at Marino. If Marino was in New England or Philip Rivers was in New England with Belichick and that organization, they might have won 10 Super Bowls instead of 6. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Yeah. I think everybody's interested, whether it's Belichick or it's Brady, and we're going to actually finally find that out this year. But I don't see Tom Brady doing that well down there. I think partly because he's older. He's a great quarterback, but when you get older now, you just don't see a lot of older guys tear it up. Peyton Manning came in, but it was really that team. He was throwing for 100, 150 yards a game. So it wasn't, towards the end, he was just, when you're older, you're older.
Right. It happens. Hey, it happens.
It's a young man's game.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, it's a young man's game.
And then, I want to talk on Brady. I think you're in the minority. People are already riding him into getting to the Super Bowl game. So it sounds like you're not riding the Buccaneers this far yet. So realistically, where do you think the Buccaneers will finish this year?
Honestly, 8-8 maybe. I mean, I just don't think what was in New England was so special, from Belichick to the ownership group to the general manager. To everything, to the players. And it's a cultural thing. They just willed themselves and got used to being the best. Tampa Bay has been so bad for so long. 2 or 3 players are not going to change that culture and make them dominant by any means.
Yeah, right. It's not that easy of a quick fix. Even though we all love Brady, we know he's a GOAT. It's good to have that from a former player like you. And let's go back to New England.
And again, he's the GOAT, but he's the GOAT all the way up to 40. I don't know if he's still the GOAT at 40, but his body of work makes him the GOAT. Yeah. But it's different. It's basketball. You get LeBron or somebody else, but there's 5 guys on the field. I mean, football has 50 guys on the roster. Coach. I mean, there's so many things that have to click that don't have to click when there's 5 guys that you do when there's 22. So I don't know if one guy makes the difference it does in that league.
Right. It's a team sport. It's a team sport. That's what football has become. And just going off that, I'm curious. I would ask you, who is the best quarterback in today? Would you still say Brady?
Oh, no. I would say I'm a big Rivers fan, so obviously to me it's Mahomes, because he can do absolutely everything and then some.
Yeah.
And you just I don't know of anybody from Elway to Peyton Manning to Breeze to Brady that came in their first year and immediately was the best player in the league. I mean, that is so rare and so unprecedented, especially a quarterback. And he just continues to get better and better. I mean, he's just absolutely amazing. He'll probably end up being the best of all time.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch him grow. And we're getting more questions from people who want to go back to your playing days. The question is, how was it like playing with another top 10 pick and former Charger, Leslie O'Neal?
Leslie and I had a very interesting relationship. Not a good one at all. We just did, Leslie was a weird guy. And to be honest with you, I hate to say it, if Leslie wouldn't have blew his knee out, he would have ended up a better player probably than Lawrence Taylor. He was absolutely the best defensive player, better than Junior Seau, better than Lawrence Taylor. If you watch him his rookie year, I mean, his knee injury was horrific knee injury, and it was 30 years ago when we didn't have the advances we have now. And the guy still came back and had 100 sacks on that knee. And you can see his knee swollen every day, always hurt. But just, he was a weird dude. So we always clashed heads. And eventually I got traded because of that. Because he was better. So you know how it is. If the better one, it's like if Draymond's, fighting with Durant, you're probably going to get rid of Draymond. I was Draymond.
Yeah.
He was Durant.
That's a good example, though. And then, I approve to that, and I know that, and I know it's thing, but, you said it. Football's people come in, they try to play for your talk about Brady. We talked about Jameis Winston earlier, how you feel that you good fit for him playing behind Drew Brees. I want to go back to that really quick. It sounds like you're saying when Drew Brees is said and done, you feel like that's going to be Jameis Winston in the New Orleans Saints.
I think so. I think it would have been Teddy Bridgewater, but Drew Brees was still a couple 2-3 years younger. But it's the same with Brady. I mean, eventually you lose it, and you don't have the arm strength anymore, and you can't do these things. No matter how great your head coach is, your offense coordinator, your scheme, you just don't have it anymore. It's every sport. I think Jameis Winston is really good. I know people look at 30 interceptions, but he's never had anything, and that's kind of an anomaly. He didn't have it before. I mean, if you look at his yards, he's performed as well as anybody his first 4 years that's ever played. I just think he needs the kind of staff like, Sean Payton. I think Sean Payton and that group and an established roster and established culture with him in there, I think he's going to be great. I really do.
Me too. I think, I look at it, I don't get it. I'm still a great quality player. There's so much more to come. I want to go back to something else. Talk about injuries. I know a lot of us watch Project 11, which was the injuries of quarterback Alex Smith here in Washington. When did you get a chance to watch that documentary?
I didn't get the question. It was breaking up.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. Did you get a chance to watch the Project 11 documentary?
I still didn't. I still did.
Oh no!
Did you ask me? Did I get to watch Alex Smith?
Yep.
I saw. I watched him. Are you talking about the workout video he's doing on his birthday? That one?
Well, that one.
The one that came out today.
Project 11 that showed his injury
and his comeback.
From that.
Oh, I got you. I mean, I saw those videos, and that was just of his leg that looked like it had gangrene. It was dying. I mean, that's just amazing to me that he's even come back. But I don't know why somebody like that would want to come back. I mean, again, he's 36 or 37 at this point. I mean, you might play for another year or two, but I mean, is it worth it? But then the other part comes, when you're 60 years old and you're like, why didn't I try? And it's one of those things that, I don't want to be haunted for the rest of my life that I didn't do it. But I don't know. I mean, that was so horrific. It's kind of like if you get attacked by a shark, do you get back in the water and go surfing? Some people do and some don't. I guess it depends on the individual.
Right. It just depends.
Right.
I'm like you. I'm hanging it up. I'm not going back because just seeing how gory that was. It's amazing.
And we just saw the video. He had to live through that for 2 years. I mean, I don't know if you'd want to at that point, but again, it's like the shark thing. Some people handle stuff different. It's no big deal to them.
True. And then you talked about workout videos on his birthday that he's posting. Was that promising it all for you? The progress he's made?
He moved well. I mean, he was never a guy that would run anyway. He was a pocket passer, but what happens the first time somebody, falls on your leg or hits you low? I mean, I don't know if I'm not a doctor. I don't know if it's stronger now than it was before or what, but I just couldn't imagine even thinking about coming back after that.
Yeah. Again, it's an incredible story. All right, let's go back to Chargers talk. I want to talk with you. 2020 NFL draft. What grade did you give them?
That all depends on the quarterback or how nobody knows. Now I'm not a big fan of his, to be honest with you. I'm not a big fan of his. I just don't. I mean, if you watch him play, he never went under center. It's always shotgun. And he has a cannon, but he has some decision problems, and he doesn't really place the ball. It's always like it's a pitcher that has an amazing 120-mile-an-hour fastball, but has no curve, no changeup, no anything else. Again, that might develop, but quarterbacks at Oregon haven't really turned out that good. I think the last one that turned out good was probably Dan Fouts. I don't remember, there's been 3 or 4 since then that just haven't done it. And I think it's a lot to do with their system that doesn't translate well to the NFL, but I don't know. He has all the tools. He's not a character issue like Ryan Leaf was. I mean, he has everything to be an amazing quarterback, but I just think the game's changing a lot now. There's just so much more you can do in the NFL with a mobile quarterback. And you see that with Deshaun, and you see that with, who's the one from Baltimore? I forgot him.
Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes. I mean, it just opens up your offense to so many things that more you can do, as opposed to somebody like Phillip Rivers or, Dan Marino back in the day, or Tom Brady that just stand there and sling it. I think those days are starting to go away, and people are going to move towards a quarterback that can do both. It just adds so much more to your offense.
Right. It's a different.
If you're a defensive player, if you're game planning, you could game plan and coverage and pressure for a guy like Rivers, but how do you game plan for Lamar Jackson or Mahomes, the things they can do? And it's just a whole different deal that you can't draw up the X's and O's for those intangibles.
Right, you talked about it. All players talk about that. How hard it is to prepare to play against Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think it's hard. I don't think there is an answer yet what they're able to do. But going back to the Chargers, you think Tyrod Taylor is going to be able to find season with the Chargers?
I don't know. I think he's, again, he's another one. Deshaun Kaiser's another one. People don't understand that you get in these cancerous organizations, whether it's Buffalo under Rex Ryan, or then you go to Cleveland, that shit show, and they ruin careers for guys, and people don't realize that. I could probably name you 20 quarterbacks if they had Bill Belichick in that system, they would have a couple of rings. So I don't really know with Tyrod, to be honest with you. He's not been given a chance. He's been given a chance, but the coaching staff so much that people don't realize. For especially for quarterbacks, to either be great or just be horrible because they put you in the wrong position. So I guess it's kind of out. The jury's out on him. again, I don't think he's going to be like Deshaun or Lamar because those guys are just so elite athletically that I don't think he has that part. But yeah, I mean, he's a good quarterback.
And you talked about Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. Do you think either of those two teams will find a way to the Super Bowl game this season?
Well, they'd have to go through each other, right? So, yeah. No, I still like Kansas City. I mean, once you win and you have that and you put together that kind of season, even before that they did, and Andy Reid finally got that off his back. Always losing. He was like Marty Schottenheimer. I think they're gonna. I think they're actually gonna win it again. Again, I like the Colts this year. I think it's going to be a surprise to everybody. Rivers in a dome with, not have to worry about anything, actually having a home crowd to cheer him on, having some weapons, having a staff that can actually utilize what he does. I think the Colts are going to be good, but yeah, I still like Kansas City.
I want to talk about Rivers. I feel like he's a quarterback that doesn't get proper respect, quite frankly, in the NFL. Why are you such a fan of his? What has he proven?
Well, you know what? You have to have been a Charger player to actually know what he goes through on a daily basis in that organization, to actually appreciate what he's done. And people don't get that. I mean, you look, there's no Hall of Famers coming out of Cleveland lately or the Jets or any of these screwed up organizations, Miami. And it's not because they don't have the talented players. It's they don't utilize them or they don't have the staff. I just think if you take any guy that's put up those numbers and those kind of things, and they talk about turning it over, but he always has to press it because there's nothing else to do. I mean, that's how they stay in the game. I just think, he's had 4 head coaches, I want to say, and like 5 or 3, and 3 in your career. That's a lot at one organization. That means when you have a new head coach, you have a new offense coordinator. So you're always going. There's been a ton of offensive coordinators, and Mike McCoy, Norv Turner. I mean, I don't know any quarterback that would be successful under them.
Right. And I appreciate you being frank about that. Like I think clubs can do really great things. Right now, though, I'm excited for the season. I think we have a lot of great quarterbacks leading a lot of great teams. So what about talk about the quarterbacks that have not found their home yet? We have Cam Newton, Joe Flacco. Any places that you'd like to see them land?
I think Joe Flacco's not probably going to land anywhere. I've never been a fan of his. I don't think, it's weird. If Baltimore had somebody besides Joe Flacco, they probably would have won a lot more Super Bowls. If Phillip Rivers would have left the Chargers 10 years ago or 6 years ago, he probably would have won a few Super Bowls at the right team. Cam hasn't been Cam really since his, MVP season. He really hasn't put up a lot of numbers, but again, I'm one of those ones. I don't know why Kaepernick's not signed with somebody. I mean, even if they're backups, you think you want that kind of guy. But I don't know. I really thought he would come to the Chargers. They drafted a guy so he wouldn't. But they're opening a new stadium. There's so many weird factors that people go into an organization. I mean, you want you're opening your new stadium. You want this big time quarterback. I don't think the Raiders are going to be with Carr much longer either. I think I can see Aaron Rodgers going there now. Now they drafted a quarterback. I would bring Cam Newton to the Raiders. I mean, it's just something, they add a little extra something when there's stars like that.
Right. I'm like you. I want to see. I think he has to start in the league. He has to start in the league. There's a lot of questions, right? We know about the injury. But curious, do you think Washington at all would have been a good fit? Can you rejoin it with Ron Rivera?
Yeah. Well, obviously, Ron Rivera knows him best, and he didn't bring him in, so there must be something between the two of them. I don't know which one's at fault, but I would like. I mean, I don't know. Washington's another career record for everybody. I mean, I don't know if that'll turn around now that Ron Rivera's there, but that's another one of those organizations that if you went to as a quarterback or a marquee player, it just ruin you pretty much. Yeah. And there's these certain organizations that do that over and over and over again.
Yeah, like you said, the organization means a lot. And I think especially in Washington, there's always questions about Ben Snyder and his views on it's really great points. But I want to just go back to the quarterback situation. There's a question a lot of us always ask in Baltimore, Burt, and that is Joe Flacco the lead? What do you think?
Elite?
What do you think?
No. You know, it's funny, actually. John Harbaugh was a graduate assistant at Pitt when I was there too.
Small world.
Small world.
Yeah, and Tony Saragusa was my roommate, who's, you know, obviously Baltimore. But no, I don't think Joe Flacco was elite. I don't even think Joe Flacco was a starting quarterback, to be honest with you. I still don't. Never. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is funny. Joe Flacco also went to Pitt and got beat out, so he transferred to Delaware. That's how he ended. He was first at Pitt, though.
Yeah, I think people forget that.
I think people forget that.
I had to ask you that. I always ask that question in Baltimore.
Well, people, this is the funny part of quarterbacks. People always get caught up, and especially back in that day, which they're getting out of now, thank God. If you're 6'5" and you could throw it 70 yards and you can put a sentence together, then you're considered potentially an elite quarterback. I mean, they don't look at the films or care about what some guy, they just fall in love with their arm, their height. Oh, they can see over the line. But, you know, there's other guys that are so much better, but they just get stuck in these intangibles. And you see it every year at the combine. I don't care if you can run a 4.1. If you didn't make any plays in college, what's the point? So a lot of teams get stuck with that. They get these workout warriors and they forget they still have to play football and they still have to compete. So they you know, let things go on film that are red flags because they ran a grade 40 or they did a, you know, broad jump or whatever they're doing, but nobody does that on the field.
Right. And just going off of that, we look.
I never ran 40 yards on a football field in my life.
And just going off of that, we look. I mean,
and that's a great example. And I just want to go talk about these young quarterbacks.
And that's a great example.
And I just want to go talk about these young quarterbacks. Of course, and Joe Burrow.
We have Tua, of course, and Joe Burrow. How do you think they'll fare in the NFL this season?
I think Jalen Hurt is. I would have took him in the first round, to be honest with you. I mean, the way he handled Alabama, that whole situation was just. I mean. You talk about a character guy or somebody you want your daughter to date. I mean, the way he handled that and then go to Oklahoma and put up those numbers. It's funny. There's certain quarterbacks people get down on and you can't change their mind no matter what. You know, they'll throw for 500 yards in 15 games, but if they throw 3 picks in one game, that overshadows the other 15. We all have bad days and the other team gets paid millions of dollars too to stop you. People forget that. But I loved him, actually. I mean, him and Burrows were my two favorite quarterbacks. And again, Jalen Hurts might not be physically, you know, what the kid the Chargers took, but just look at his numbers. I mean, look at his numbers and look at the way he handled Alabama and then go on to Oklahoma. I mean, you can't test that at the combine. You can't do anything to give somebody that kind of character. I saw no problem with that one.
Yeah, so Philly fans should calm down.
Yeah, so Philly fans should calm down.
Philly's not happy with anybody. Philly's never happy with anybody ever.
That's fair.
You're talking about a team that throws snowballs and boos Santa Claus, and I've never seen the Eagles happy with any pick. They weren't happy with Randall, I don't think.
That's fair. And then now let's talk Joe Burrow. Is he worth all the hype? Is this going to be a new Cincinnati
Bengals team?
No, I don't. Again, if you look at Andy Dalton's numbers, he's a pretty good quarterback, and that's why I got $7 million. You know, the Cowboys, I guess, got tired. I mean, you can go 8-8 with much less money spent on a quarterback. I mean, that's the problem with. I love Dak Prescott as a quarterback, but he's under kind of the same thing. And granted, it was shitty coaches again, and the same thing, and a you know, egotistical owner, and that always butts heads. But you know, if you want to be a franchise quarterback, make $50 million a year, you can't have a career 8-8 record. No matter how good you are, and if it's not your fault, it doesn't matter. You can't get out of the shadow of being 8-8 every year or less.
Yeah. It just is what it is, and that's what it sounds like. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Dalton's 8-8 every year. Why not just get him for cheaper? I mean, you can get a lot of quarterbacks that don't have the weapons that the Cowboys have to go 8-8.
Yeah.
Very true, and like you said, I mean, Andy Dalton.
Very true, and like you said, I mean, Andy Dalton. He's got 500 with the Bengals. To see what he does with the Dallas Cowboys.
Now let's play down south. Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins.
What do you think this is going to get?
What do you think this is going to get to, Miss Tua?
Well, it's going to be like everything else. Tua's going to be great as long as he doesn't get hurt. I don't think anybody would argue that. I mean, he's just amazing. I mean, but again, if you're getting hurt that much in college, the game speeds up a lot in the pros, a whole lot. Defenses are much trickier. The players are, well, I was going to say they're much more physical, but that's not the case anymore in the NFL. But it's a big jump, and people don't realize it. That's why there's, you know, so many quarterback busts. I mean, these guys were tearing it up in college, but they can't make the transition. There's a reason for that. The players are a lot better, and the coaches are a lot better. So I don't know with him. I mean, I just think physical wise, it might be a blessing for him to go to the NFL because, obviously you can't even touch a quarterback anymore. So that might be a good thing for him. But I think he'll be good. But again, I don't know. The Dolphins are another one of those teams that just ruin everybody. I mean, look at the kid from Texas A&M that just went to Tennessee. I mean, when you leave Tannehill, when you leave it, he didn't get any better, any smarter, any faster, anything else. He went to a better staff and a better scheme, and he shined.
Right.
And that's the difference. So you never know. It might happen to Tua too, and then he'll have to endure 4 years of being called a bust and then go somewhere else and go in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And then I think they're touching on it, but I gotta ask you. It sounds like you're saying NFL is off. That you wish they would just get rid of.
It is. I don't. It's like anything though. If you slowly do it, people will get used to it. So they're getting used to it now. That obviously their popularity hasn't gone down, and I'm aware of the CTE issue. Junior Seau is my best friend, but I just think. I mean, it's not as entertaining for me as a player, but because I grew up watching Jack Lambert and then the 90s, but you watch 90s basketball compared to now, it's the same thing. 90s basketball looked like a gang fight every week. But now it's the game just, I don't know if you want to say evolved, transitioned, went backwards, changed. It's just the way it is in all sports pretty much.
And you talked about 90s basketball. I want to get on it with you. Have you had a chance yet to catch any of the last episodes?
I've watched a couple. I read something Pat Ewing said. He said he doesn't watch it because he doesn't need another documentary or anybody to tell him how great Michael Jordan was. So I'm kind of like that. I grew up in the 90s. I know how great he is. I mean, the disturbing thing, I think he comes off as an asshole in it. I think that's the problem. I mean, greatest basketball player of all time. He's greatest asshole of all time. I think that was the biggest take I got from it. You feel bad for Scottie Pippen, obviously. I mean, he's another one. So if Scottie Pippen's anywhere else, he's, the second best, player of all time, maybe. But when you're standing next to Michael Jordan, that just doesn't happen, no matter how good you are. And again, that's a circumstance we talk about with quarterbacks football. I mean, everything has to work out perfectly for you. For Brady, it had to be Drew Bledsoe, good sir. And you have to be there and everything has to be in place. So it doesn't matter how good you are, which is sad. If you're born and drafted and end up on the same floor as Michael Jordan, you're not even considered the greatest of all, or even in the conversation.
Right, like you said, that competition that's there, and MJ widely regard him all the time. But just going off of that, the NFL is a hard thing. Of course, we watch the draft and see all the players, but thinking about the players who have not been picked, I'm curious to think, do you think that the NFL needs a minor league system or some sort of system to help have a pool of more talent?
I don't think so. I think that's what college football is. Again, it's not like baseball. You can spend, 8 years in the minors and then go to the majors. I mean, it's such a physical sport, even with the changes made in the, in the hitting policy. People don't realize it's still physical in the line. They haven't changed anything there. It's just you can't hit somebody in the head and you're not allowed to touch a quarterback now. I think if you basically get washed out. I mean, football, the average is 3.5, 4 years. So if you put them in a minor league for 4 years, and they're already on the bubble, I mean, physically, that takes away from them. I just don't think so. I think it would never happen. Never work.
Right. You just don't see it happening.
No, because, I mean, the lifespan's so short for football players just because of how physically daunting the game is, even with the adjustments, that, if you haven't got it by the time you're playing Division I college in the SEC or Pac-12 or somewhere else, I don't think, 4 years playing against guys or 2 years playing against the same level of guys is going to get you any better.
Right, not getting to the next level. Burt, I want to talk with you first in this COVID-19 world. We're talking about college football. We don't even know if we're going to have it. I mean, we usually have it come this fall. So tell me, are you a fan of possibly pushing the season back to spring? Or are you a fan of playing without fans?
I'd be more of a fan of playing without fans. The TV deal, especially in new collective bargaining, and even college football is where all the money comes from. It's not attendance, or else the Chargers wouldn't be able to, pay the security staff, let alone the entire roster. I mean, they have 20,000 people at a game. So attendance is really nothing to the NFL. It's, they want fantasy football. They want basically they want the TV money, and that's where everything comes from, or live stream or anything else. So it's changed the way people watch it. It's not the old days where attendance means anything. I mean, it's great to get parking and some attendance money, but that doesn't float the boat. It's TV. So if you can play and still get your TV money, that's what they're going to do. But they'll play.
Right.
That's the money. And that's what we're talking about even with the NFL schedule release. So the NFL, they're going to make sure people know the refund policy. But for fans, we still think it'll be the same experience if we're not able to be in those on Sundays.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, after everybody's been out of work, I don't know if anybody can afford those $300 tickets that the NFL charges anymore.
Very true.
So it might work out well for everybody.
Yeah, all right. Before I let you go, we talked about some of the matchups that are coming up. I think one that I'm really excited about, Burt, is the Ravens getting another shot at the Tennessee Titans. After the Titans ruined their dreams last year, any other to stand out to you?
Not, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't even watch football anymore.
Really?
I seriously don't. No, I mean, if I'm somewhere and they have it on, I'll watch it. I watch college football. I'm not really, the pros just, I don't know. Something about it with the rules changes and everything else and the money. I mean, I love college football. I watch that all the time, but it just seems more pure. I mean, they're not playing for money. Well, they used to not play. Now they're allowed to, I guess. But it just seems more pure. The atmosphere is more pure. It's not, it's just pure to me. It's almost like the NFL used to be.
Right. So it just sounds like there's no for sure things that you're most looking forward to. But I think the Chargers will fare pretty well. We'll have to keep an eye out for them.
Don't we say that every year, though? Don't we say that every year?
Trying to be nice, Burt.
Okay. Yeah, they're going to do great. This is their year.
I love it. But before I let you go, Burt, any last words for the listening audience?
No, because my phone is about to die. I'm getting the thing that it's overheated right now.
That 110 degree heat.
It's overheated. Yeah.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Can you let people know where they can follow you?
I don't even know my Twitter handle, to be honest with you.
I've got you, Burt _Grossman.
Oh, you do? All right, thank you, because I don't even know it. Yeah, I don't even know it.
Well, thank you so much for joining. We'll have to have you back on. Truly appreciate your time. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining this special edition of Listening with KNN. Hope you all have fun as we prepare for the NFL schedule release. It's going to be a great one. We'll be back this Saturday at 2 p.m. with Greg Young, the father of the #2 pick for the Washington Redskins, Chase Young. You won't want to miss it. We're going to get a lot of insight into his life and what we can expect from the Washington Redskins this season. Again, to you all at 2. The podcast form is also available on Spotify, Google Play, and iTunes. Be sure to download, subscribe, and please rate. It truly matters to me. And I will see you all this Saturday. Have a great one.